Good morning, children. Stay safely at home. So, I am starting the next topic of this chapter, that is impulse of a force. Alright. Now, impulse of a force, it is defined as force, product of force and the duration of the force. Means you can write impulse of a force is given by force into the duration of the force. Means the delta t, duration of the force, generally it is small, so we write it as force into delta t. Now you know that force is equal to mass into acceleration. Again, acceleration you can write it as change in velocity by time, so delta t cancel, you are getting m into delta v, means what? Change in momentum. So there are two expressions for the impulse of a force. One can find out by this formula, that J is equal to F into delta T, force into time, or you can consider change in momentum. Alright, so it is impulse of a force. Then another term we generally use, that is known as impulsive force. Now here impulsive force means impulse of a force and impulsive force, these are not two same terms. Impulse of a force is product of force and time, whereas impulsive force means the force whose magnitude is very large comparison to its duration. Means when a very large force acts on a body for very small duration of time, then the force is known as the impulsive force. So you see what will be the SI unit of J, you can write it as change in momentum, means kg meter per second. Again from this formula you are getting Newton second, means what are the unit? Either you can write Newton second or kg meter per second. So here this one, that kg meter per second is Newton second, the concept is coming from this one. Actually it is also coming from Newton's second law of motion. Now we can apply the concept of impulse of a force in our day-to-day life practical cases. You know that while catching a ball, the cricketer lowers his hand. Alright, so why all these example, whatever I am discussing in 10th standard you studied, so I am discussing in short, you just try to note it down point wise. So when the cricketer is lowering his hands, what the cricketer is doing? Increasing the duration of time. Okay, increasing the duration of time during which force is acting. Okay, so when the duration of time is increasing, then you know that change in linear momentum, change in momentum is constant. Just consider that cricketer when just trying to catch the ball is coming to the cricketer with some constant velocity. Okay, so u is constant, the initial velocity with which the ball is coming, u is constant, and what will be the final velocity? 0. So you see change in momentum, that is equal to constant. Alright, so you can write F into delta t is equal to constant. Now by lowering the hand, what the cricketer is doing? Cricketer is increasing delta t. So when delta t increases, then what happens? F decreases. Means cricketer applies small force on the ball to stop the ball. So ball also in turns apply small amount of force on the cricketer's hand. So there is no chance of cricketer to get hurt. Okay, so this is the reason that while catching a ball, why cricketer lowers his hand. Then another example of this one impulse of a force is that when a person jumps on a concrete floor, we will call it as pakka floor. Okay, instead of jumping on a kacha floor or on sand, then you will see that the person get hurt more when he jumps on the pakka floor instead of a kacha floor. Why? Because when it is a pakka floor, then what is happening? Delta t becoming small. So you see in this case also u is constant, v 0, so change in momentum constant, because the person is jumping with some velocity, so u constant. Then when touching the ground, then velocity 0. Then changing momentum, constant. So F into delta t constant. So in this case what is happening when the person is jumping on the pakka floor, then delta t is less, so F is more. Alright, but in case of kacha floor, delta t is more and F is less. I hope you will be able to understand and write it properly. In case of pakka floor, delta t is less. Okay, but as delta t is less, so F is more. So what is happening? The floor is applying more force on the person jumping on it. But when it is kacha floor, then what is happening? Delta t more, so F is less. So person is applying less force on the floor and floor also applying less force on the person, so person is not hurt. Alright, so this is the reason that why this happens. Alright, so these examples you must write down point wise. Then other examples, you will see that all the vehicles, they are provided with a shocker. Why? When the vehicle is moving on a bumpy road, then jacks are provided. So when jacks are there, then shockers, what they do? They increase the duration of time. Alright, so when the duration of time increases, then less amount of force is applied on the rider of that particular vehicle. Okay, so shockers, this is the way they reduces the force acting on the riders during any jerk by increasing the duration of time. Now in the same way, in case of trains, buffers are provided. I hope you have seen. In between two bogies, there are buffers. So why buffers are provided in trains? Because when the trains are pushed or pulled by each other, one compartment is pushing or pulling the other compartment, then jerks are produced. In that case, just buffer, what it does, buffer increases the duration of time. So when it increases duration of time, what happens? The amount of force acting on the passengers during the jerk, it gets reduced. Okay, so this is the cause that why in the vehicles the shockers are there and why in the train between the two compartment buffers are there. So these are the practical examples of impulse of a force in our day-to-day life. Now next topic is Newton's third law of motion. Everybody knows it that every action has an equal and opposite reaction. But you know that the most important point regarding the Newton's third law is that action and reaction, they never act on the same bodies. Action and reaction always they act on different bodies, and that's why they can never cancel each other. Alright, so if you just consider that two bodies, one A and B, so it is applying a force on B, so you can write it like this: force on B exerted by A, and then you can write it as force on A exerted by B. So if you consider Newton's third law of motion, then you can write that FAB is equal to minus FBA. Negative sign indicates what? They act in the opposite direction and their magnitudes are equal. Magnitudes are equal, but they act in the opposite direction. And what is the most important part? I said that action and reaction, they never act on the same body. They act on different bodies, and that's why they cannot cancel each other. Now you know that why we can walk on ground. Alright, when we walk on ground, then you have seen that by the toes what you do, not by the toes, by the heel. I am just drawing the diagram how we can walk on the ground. Just you place your foot like this. Isn't it? One foot you just place like this. So you see you are pressing the ground in this direction. So what will happen? The ground will provide a reaction on you, on your foot. So this reaction, you can break it into two components. This is the horizontal component and this is the vertical component. The vertical component of the reaction provided by the ground is balancing your weight. and the horizontal component, it helps you to walk in the forward direction. Alright, so this is the way, by applying the Newton's third law of motion only, we can walk on the ground. Now it is difficult. Now second example, where we unknowingly we are applying the Newton's third law of motion, that is, it is difficult to walk on sand. It is difficult to walk on ice. Why? In case of sand, what is happening? The moment you are pressing the sand by your heel, what is happening? Sand getting displaced. So what happens? This reaction is very small. As the reaction is very small, so horizontal component is also too small to help you to work in the forward direction. But in case of ice, what happens? Now you know that if the horizontal direction force is very large, then what will happen? Instead of walking smoothly, you can stumble down. Alright. So here what happens in case of ice provide very less amount of friction. So as the friction is less, then horizontal component, it becomes too large, and that's why it becomes difficult also to walk on ice. There is a chance at every moment that you can stumble down in the forward direction. Alright. Then next one is when a horse pull the cart. Then when the horse pull the cart, I hope you have observed how the horse run. The horse always, the set its feet, always making an angle like this, as we do. So what is happening in this case also, the foot of the horse, it is pressing the ground in this direction. So the ground is providing the reaction. Now reaction you can break into two components. The horizontal component helps the horse to move in the forward direction. Alright. Then next one is the motion of jet. Jet, you know, jet or rocket. In case of jet or rocket, what happens? The gas is burnt, and the compressed gas, when the certain amount of fuel is burnt within the rocket or jet, and that compressed gas is allowed to come out through a very fine nozzle. So what is happening? You see here, the rocket is forcing the gas in the downward direction to come out. So in turn, the compressed gas apply the reaction on the rocket or the jet in the upward direction, or in any direction moving, means opposite to the direction of motion of the compressed gas, exhaust gas, we say exhaust gas also, coming out from the rocket or jet. The rocket or jet will move opposite to the motion of the exhaust or compressed gas. Okay, that's the way jet and rockets move. Then you know that the other examples are swimming. While swimming, I hope you have observed the hand. What does the hand of the swimmer? What the swimmer does? Just push the water in the backward direction. So when the swimmer is pushing the water in the backward direction, which is action, the water will apply the reaction in the forward direction. As a result, the swimmer can move in the forward direction. Alright. Then while firing a gun, you know that when a gun is fired, then the gun is applying the force, means if you consider the gun is applying the force on the bullet. So this is action. So what the bullet is doing, applying a force on the gun in the backward direction, that is known as reaction, and that is known as recoil of a gun. Means whenever a bullet is fired in the forward direction, the gun always move in the backward direction. That is known as recoil of a gun. So this is also one example of action and reaction. So these are all practical examples in our lives, that Newton's practical application of Newton's third law of motion in our day-to-day life. Next topic is very important topic exam wise. So you must learn it, the law. Law of conservation of linear momentum. Law of conservation of linear momentum states that the total linear momentum of a system remain constant with time when no external force acts on it. Means when the external force acting on a body is zero, then total linear momentum of the system remain constant. Alright, you can prove it from the Newton's second law. So suppose you are having a system which are having two particles of masses m1 and m2. So you can write what is the total momentum of the system. Total momentum of the system is momentum of the first particle plus momentum of the second particle. So you see, you can write what is the change in momentum of the system. It will be change in momentum of the first particle plus change in momentum of the second particle. Alright. So what is the rate of change in momentum? Del P by del T. You can write it as del P1 means I am just dividing both the sides of this equation by delta T. So you can write it as del P2 divided by delta T. Is that clear? Now, if you consider that delta T, the time interval is very small, then you can use the calculus that it is time derivative of the total linear momentum is time derivative of the first particle, linear momentum of the first particle, then time derivative of linear momentum of the second particle. Now, according to this one, you can write it as dp1 dt should be equal to the force acting on the particle, first particle, and what will be F2, force acting on the second particle. Now you see, F1 may have two parts, that is F1 external and F1 internal. Internal means the M2 is providing on M1, and external means some other body is applying the force on the system. Like that, you can write F2, it has two parts. One is the external part, let us write it as F2x, and another is the internal part. Now you see here, F1 internal, F2 internal, they will, if you just consider this, that F1 external plus F2 external, and then you write down the internal forces together. So internal forces, when you are writing together, then it is becoming F1 internal plus F2 internal. But what are these forces actually? Identify them. These are the action and reaction force, because these are the internal forces. So these are the action and reaction force. So what will happen? F1 internal plus F2 internal is equal to 0. So you can write here F1 external plus F2 external is nothing but the total external force. So you see what you have got, the total external force. So you see what you have got, that dp dt is equal to F external. Now if you consider that external force acting on the system is 0. So you see you are getting dp dt is equal to 0. So dp dt means what? Rate of change of linear momentum with respect to time is 0. What does it mean? There is no change. That's why change in momentum is 0. So you can say that P is equal to constant. As the quantity is constant, that's why there is no change in it. That's why dp dt is equal to 0. Okay. So what are you getting? When external force acting on the system is 0, no external force acts on it, then the total linear momentum of the system remain constant. So you can prove the Newton's law of conservation of linear momentum by applying the concept of Newton's third law of motion. Now the examples already I have discussed, that movement of a rocket, movement of a jet, then movement of the bullet, firing of a bullet from a gun, everything you can explain by applying the law of conservation of linear momentum also. Alright, so you can consider in case of rocket and jet, what is happening, that no external force is acting on the rocket and the exhaust gas system. So what is happening, if you consider the total linear momentum of the system before the rocket start moving or before the gas starts coming out is 0. So what will happen? Change in linear momentum of the gas should be equal and opposite to that of the rocket. So that's why if the gas is moving in the downward direction, the rocket should move in the upward direction. Alright. So same thing you can apply for recoil of a gun also. What is happening when the bullet is fired from a gun? Before the firing, the momentum of bullet and the gun is 0. So what will happen, as there is no external force acting on the gun and bullet system, okay, gun is applying the force on bullet, bullet is applying force on the gun, there is no external force. So what is happening, the total linear momentum should remain constant. And what was the total momentum before firing? 0. So after firing also, total momentum of bullet and gun should be 0. So what will happen, momentum of bullet and momentum of gun should be in opposite direction, then only it can be 0. It means what? If the bullet is fired in the forward direction, the gun should recoil back in the backward direction. Alright, and in the same example, that when a bomb explodes, when the bomb explodes, before the explosion, what is the momentum of the bomb? 0. So after the explosion, the different parts of the bomb, it gets scattered in all direction in such a manner that total linear momentum of all the fragments should be equal to 0 according to the conservation of linear momentum. So these are the examples in our lab where we use the concept of conservation of linear momentum. Now Newton's second law is considered as the real law of motion. Alright, although Newton has given 3 laws, but we consider Newton's second law as the real law of motion. Why? Because from the second law one can derive Newton's first law also and Newton's third law also. So how you can derive Newton's first law from the second law? Just you see, according to second law, we know force is equal to mass into acceleration. So if you consider that force is 0, force is 0 means product of mass and acceleration is 0. But as mass cannot be 0, it means acceleration 0. So acceleration 0 may happen for 2 cases. What are the 2 cases? That in one case that the body is at rest, means V equal to U equal to 0. The body is not moving only. So there is no question of acceleration. Means the body is at rest. Here you can write V equal to U equal to 0. It means what? The body is at rest. And V equal to U. If V equal to U, then also acceleration 0. So if V equal to U means what? Body is having uniform motion. Alright, so you see, when the body will be at rest and when the body will have uniform motion, when the force acting on the body is 0, that is the first law. What first law states? That if a body is at the state of rest, it continues to be at the state of rest, and if a body is in uniform motion along a straight line, then the body will continue its motion along a straight line until and unless it is compelled by an external force. What does it mean? That when there is no external force, if the body is at rest, body will continue to be at rest, and if the body is in motion, then what will happen? The body will continue to be in motion if there is no external force. So you see, you can derive first law from the second law. In the same manner, one can derive third law from the second law also. Now how you can derive third law from the second law? Let us consider 2 bodies A and B colliding with each other. So when colliding with each other, just look at the diagram. A is applying the force on B in this direction, which we are denoting by FBA, and FAB is the force exerted by B on A. Alright, AB means force on A exerted by B. So you see, you can write what is the change in momentum of the first body. You can write it as delta P1 is FAB into delta T. Again, what is the change in momentum of the second body, delta P2? You can write it as force acting on the body, that is FBA, into the duration, that is delta T. Now in this case, you see, when the 2 body collides with each other, then no external force act on the body. One force exerted, one body is applying the force on the other. There is no third person here. So what you can write as there is no external force. So according to the conservation of linear momentum, delta P1 plus delta P2 is 0. But delta P1 you can write FAB delta T. This part is the second law of motion. That delta P1 one can write it as FAB into delta T. Delta P2 you can write it as FBA delta T. So plus these two terms, sum of these two terms is 0. So you change the side of one term, then delta t get cancelled. So what is the result you are getting? FAB is equal to minus FBA. So FAB, if you consider as the reaction, FAB you consider as the action, then FBA will be considered as the reaction. So what are you getting? Action and reaction, they are equal in magnitude but opposite in direction. So this is the way you can derive third law from Newton's second law. So as you can derive first and third, both the laws from second law. So second law is considered as real law of motion. Now the concept of apparent weight of a body in a lift. Alright. Now where from the concept of apparent weight is coming, or what is the concept of weight? Just try to get it. We know that every object is attracted by earth towards its center, which is called as weight of the body. So you see, when you are just standing on a ground, then you see what is happening. You are pressing the earth surface by a force that is nothing but your weight. Okay, and we consider W is equal to mg. And when you are standing on the ground, alright, then what is happening? You are pressing the ground by the force mg, which if you consider as action, then what earth is doing? Earth is applying a force on you just opposite to this mg, that is known as the normal reaction. Okay, so here you see, when the person is not moving, the person is standing on the ground, then what is happening? This reaction and the weight, they are equal. Alright, now you consider this case. This is the case 1. I am writing is as case 1. You just draw the diagram and understand the physics behind it and write down the equations. So suppose a person is within a lift. Alright. Now let us consider the lift is moving up with an acceleration A. Alright. Now in this case, we have to find out first what are the forces acting on the person. So what are the forces acting on the person? Just see, mg is acting in the downward direction, reaction is acting in the upward direction. Reaction of the ground means the floor of the lift, or you can say by the lift, that is the reaction. Now here you see, if the lift is moving upward with an acceleration A, it means that the person is also moving upwards with acceleration A. So if the person is moving with acceleration A, then you cannot say like this one that R is equal to mg. R should be bigger than mg. Then only the person will be able to move along with the lift in the upward direction. So in this case, you see, what is the net force acting on the person? Net force acting on the person is R minus mg. Now according to Newton's second law of motion, net force acting on the person should be equal to product of mass into acceleration. So you can write it as m into a. So you see what is coming, the reaction mg plus ma means reaction by the ground, which gives us the sensation of that weight. It is equal to m into g plus a. So that's why when the lift move up with the acceleration A, then apparent weight which is given by the reaction provided by the lift is equal to m into g plus a. Alright, so that's why you feel heavier when the lift move up with an acceleration A. Alright, now consider the second case, that suppose the lift is moving down with the acceleration A. So in this case also, what are the forces acting on the person within the lift? Again the same two forces, R and mg. So in this case, as the person along with the lift coming down with an acceleration A, you cannot say R is bigger than mg. You can say R is equal to mg. Rather, in this case, mg is bigger than R. So you can write in this case, what is the net force acting on the body? It is mg minus R. And according to Newton's second law of motion, net force acting on the person should be equal to mass into acceleration. So you see, if you simplify it, what are you getting? R is equal to m into g minus a. So you see what is happening to the apparent weight of the body when the lift is coming down with an acceleration a. The apparent weight is decreasing. What is the original weight? mg. But what is the apparent weight when the lift is coming down with acceleration a? It is given by m into g minus a. Now if you consider that, this is the third case, that if you consider the lift is coming down, so that's why I am giving the arrow downward direction with an acceleration due to gravity, then you say what is the value of R is coming? R is coming m into g minus g0. So it will give you the sensation of weightlessness. Alright, means you will feel like that as if you don't have any weight. When it will happen? When the lift will come down with an acceleration which is equal to acceleration due to gravity g. Alright, now remember that here I am writing when the acceleration is there, then only these things will happen. But if you consider that the lift is moving with a constant velocity, maybe in the upward direction, maybe in the downward direction, it means what? Net force acting on the lift is 0. So in that case, what will happen? The apparent weight will be equal to the true weight of the person. Alright, clear? So this topic is important for numericals. You may have to solve the numericals applying the concept. So I am summarizing it again, that when the lift is moving with constant velocity, maybe upward or maybe downward direction, apparent weight is equal to true weight equal to mg. But when the lift is moving in the upward direction with an acceleration a, then apparent weight will be bigger than the true weight. And what will be the expression for the apparent weight? R is equal to m into g plus a. And when the lift is moving down with an acceleration a, then apparent weight will be less than the true weight. And what will be the expression for the apparent weight? R is equal to m into g minus a. Please do learn all the three formulae because you have to apply it for solving the numericals. Thank you, girls.